Hey everyone, this is continuation of previous video which we posted in our channel earlier. In previous video we discussed about router boot sequence, but that lesson was about introduction part. Here in this video we will cover following subject. First, understanding Cisco router boot sequence using demonstration. Second, how to set up iOS image as boot image when router boots up. Third, we will study about running configuration versus startup configuration. So how you going to identify these two type of configuration in your router console. Fourth, we will understand how you going to change the configuration register value and let the router to boot into rommon mode. Fifth, we will cover how you're going to recover console and enable password using password recovery mechanism. Okay, let's get into the demonstration. Here for the demonstration purpose, I am using Cisco packet tracer software. Initially, I will test the boot sequence using one of the new router. So if I select one of the new router from packet tracer, and if I am getting into console of this particular router, first thing first, this router will do the post. And the second, it will load the bootstrap program. Then bootstrap program look into the configuration register value. If the configuration register value is default, initially it will try to load the iOS from flash to RAM. As you can see here, router load the iOS from flash to RAM, but unable to find the configuration file from NVRAM because it's a fresh router. That's why there is no any existing configuration file. Then router ends up in setup mode and asking, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? So here you can provide yes or no. If you select yes, it will ask the question in programmatic way, one by one. Initially it will ask what is your router host name you want to provide. Once you provide the host name, then next question it will ask what management IP address would you like to provide. Then one by one, each and every information you can provide for your router. If you select no, then you can get into the privilege exec mode, and from there you can configure your router as you wish. So I will select no, then I can get into the user exec mode. Then from here I can get into the privilege exec mode. To see existing files and directories inside the flash memory, you can use the command called show flash. Once you type this command, you can see existing files, including iOS image. This is the iOS image that router uses to boot the router. Suppose if you have multiple iOS images inside flash, then router will select the iOS image preferred by boot system command. So this is one of the manual process. You have to get into the global configuration mode. In global configuration mode, you need to use the boot system command, type boot space, then type system question mark, then you need to point out where that image is located. Then I will select a flash colon slash, then what image do you want to select, right? So currently you have only one iOS image. So even if you don't use the boot system command, automatically router will choose this image in order to boot the router. In case if you have multiple iOS image, this is how you will type the command to select the image, right? So once you enter, then next time when router boots up, that iOS image will decompressed and loading into RAM from the flash memory, right? Okay, now let's see the difference between startup configuration and running configuration. Running configuration is the configuration that stays in the RAM. To verify running configuration, here I will use the command called show running configuration. Once you type this command, it will list out all the configuration currently stays in the RAM. But startup configuration is different. Startup configuration will be loaded from NVRAM to RAM when you reboot or turn on the router. Here in this router, if you made some changes, that change stays in the RAM until you save the configuration. So I will just change this name of this router as R7. In order to verify, once again I will use show running configuration command. Here you can verify the name for this router currently changed as R7. Now what I will do, I will just reboot this router by using reload command. while I am rebooting, the router will ask, do you want to save the configuration or not? In this case, if I select no, then router will be rebooted, the configuration will be flushed out from the router. Confirm. So simply you can verify the router will ends up in setup mode because that configuration was on RAM, which is temporary memory, and you didn't save the configuration also. So in order to save the configuration, contents of the running configuration must be copied to startup configuration. Again, let's change the router name, hostname R7. Before we save the configuration in NVRAM, let's verify is there any configuration in NVRAM or not. To verify the existing configuration in NVRAM, you can use the command called show startup configuration. Currently there is no any configuration, so we are going to save the RAM configuration to NVRAM. In order to save the RAM configuration to NVRAM, you can use the command called copy running configuration startup configuration. So once you type this command, the configuration which stays in the RAM going to be copied in the NVRAM. So once I enter, then you can verify the configuration being copied to NVRAM from RAM. Once again, I will use the command called show startup configuration. So here you can verify all the RAM configuration is copied to NVRAM. This time if I reboot the router by using reload command, then configuration will be loaded from NVRAM to RAM when router boots up. So I will verify once again, show startup configuration. Here you can see all the configuration. Next we will verify the existing configuration register value in the router. I can use the command called show version. The configuration register value 0x2102, which is the default. According to this configuration register value, when router boots up, initially it will look for an iOS from flash and configuration file from NVRAM. Then both will be loaded to RAM. That's what so far we see through the demonstration. This time we will change this configuration register value as 0x2100. As we discussed in previous video, this configuration register value you will use to boot the router into rommon mode. To change the configuration register value, I will get into the global configuration mode. Then I can type the command called config-register, then configuration register value which you want 0x2100. Once you enter, the configuration register value will be changed as 0x2100. In order to verify, again I will give the command called show version. Then you can verify the configuration register value will affect at the next reload. Right, next time when router boots up, it will ends up in rommon mode instead of router console. Right, so here I will reboot the router by using reload command. What they are asking, system configuration has been modified, would you like to serve it? I will just give no. Once I enter, the router ends up in rommon mode. The purpose of getting into rommon mode, in case if router doesn't have a valid iOS, we can upload a valid iOS from tftp server to router. Right, so this is what one of the main reason why do we need to get into the rommon mode in the router. Keep in mind, even if the router configuration register value is 0x2102, which is the default, still router can get to rommon mode if the router cannot find a valid iOS from flash. This is automatic method, but what we did here, we manually let the router to get into the rommon mode. The purpose of getting into rommon mode only to upload the iOS from tftp server. So this is one of the main purpose why do we need to get into the rommon mode. Next configuration register value 0x2142. This configuration register value will be used for password recovery purpose as we discussed in previous video. For this demonstration, I will use another router, router R1 with the password. If I am getting into console of router R1, it will prompt for console password. Let's assume you forgot the console password and you want to recover the password without erasing existing configuration from the router. In this case, you can use 0x2142 configuration register value to recover the password. However, you cannot log into the router because you already forgot the password. So what I will do, I will turn off the router, and when you turn it on again, the router start to reboot. While it's rebooting, you have to press Ctrl+C key from your keyboard within first 60 seconds of boot sequence. Once you press, then the router ends up in rommon mode. While you are in rommon mode, then you can configure the configuration register value 0x2142. Then you will reload the router. The second time router reload, then it will load the iOS from flash to RAM without loading the configuration file from NVRAM to RAM. So this is what we are going to do. I will turn it on again and I will get into the console. Then I will press Ctrl+C key from your keyboard. Once you press, it ends up in rommon mode. From rommon mode, you will change the configuration register value 0x2142. Conf reg. Here you cannot use the command called configure-register. Instead, you have to use the command conf reg then 0x2142. Once you enter, then when you reboot the router by using reset command, this time it will load the iOS from flash to RAM without loading configuration file from NVRAM to RAM. The router ends up in setup mode. So I will select no. Then you can get into the router. But here there is no any configuration in the RAM, but you can verify there is a configuration in NVRAM. You can use the command show startup configuration. Once you enter, you can verify your router name is R01 and your console password is Cisco. And if you want to change the console or enable password in your router, first of all you need to copy the startup configuration to the running configuration. So I will use the command copy startup configuration, then running configuration. The configuration will be copied to RAM from NVRAM. So once I enter, the router name will be changed and all of your router configuration will be copied from NVRAM to RAM. So you can verify show run. And let's say for example you want to change the console password this time. Line console 0 password, I want to modify it Cisco 123 login. And keep in mind, after you confirm and modify all of your router password, you must convert the configuration register value to the default. You know the default value is 0x2102. Otherwise, when you reboot the router, again the router will ignore the configuration file from NVRAM. So in order to prevent that, we can again convert the configuration register value. Currently the configuration register value you can verify show version 0x2142. It will load the iOS from flash to RAM, ignore the configuration file. So we will convert it config-register 0x2102. Then you will save the configuration which you modified in your router. Then when you reboot the router by using reload command, this time the router will load the configuration file from NVRAM also. So you know the password Cisco 123, you already modify it, and I will give the enable password, that is Cisco. Once I enter, I can get into the console of router R1. So that's all for this video. Every week you will get new videos, so please consider subscribing my YouTube channel and press the bell button, that way you don't miss any of my upcoming videos.